So here we go, 7 videos in 1 week on YouTube. Not too bad, is it? But today I'm going to talk about a stock that went really wrong for me. And you guys might be thinking, well, why am I talking about that? There's a lot of lessons to be learned, and today I'm going to show you those lessons. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Hit the like button. Let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about one of the stocks that went really wrong for me. It's a stock that I lost a lot of money on. It was one of my worst performers that I have owned and talked about on the YouTube channel. Unfortunately, in the stock market, you do have stocks that don't perform. I know sometimes people don't want to talk about the losers and only focus on the winners, and people sometimes hide the losers, but not me. I like talking about the losers because we learn a lot from them. You don't, when things go right, it's great, you make money, but you don't really learn much. When things go wrong, you learn things. You learn what went wrong and you make sure you don't do it again. Or sometimes it's a reminder of that's why you don't do that certain thing. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, because at the moment I feel like in the stock market everything is going up, and especially this week on YouTube, me personally, I've been talking a lot about things going really well and making a lot of money, which is absolutely great. But I also want to talk about what has gone wrong, because when we look back at what went wrong, that's where you learn the most things. And I feel like because we've had such a good stock market recently, all I've been able to do on the YouTube channel is go, oh, look at this stock that's up and this stock that is up. I haven't really had much to say like, this has gone wrong. Back in 2021, 2022, when we had the worst stock market since 2008, unfortunately, that was the biggest year of where you'll get to learn things. And there's certainly things in that year that I took away and I learned from and hopefully improved me as an investor. And that's the big thing, is that sometimes, I'll still see it now, 2 years on, I'll still see certain stocks thrown at me from that time period that I bought and lost money on. And people throw it at me like, oh, you lost money. So I was like, yeah, fair enough. But so did so many other people, so many people lost money in 2022. It just depends how open they are about it. Unfortunately, when you are a stock picker, you are going to get things wrong at the end of the day. The aim is to have a higher track record than what you lose. If you get 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 10 stocks right, you're going to be a very good stock picker. If you've got a higher than 50% hit rate, you're doing pretty well in this game. And that's the big thing, is that, people do have some hit rate that goes wrong. Some people have 9 out of 10 that goes right. Some people have 8 out of 10 that gets right. It depends how transparent they are about it. Sometimes it feels like that maybe they get 10 out of 10 right, but they won't. There's no investor out there that gets 10 out of 10 right. But what I wanted to do today is, going back to the point, is that I wanted to talk about something that went wrong, because 2022 was the year where was my worst year in the stock market and things went wrong for me, and that's the time where I can go back to and share it with you guys about what went wrong and how I can improve and what I improved on. And like I said, right now I can't, in 2024 I can't really do that because it's been a good year. Most of my stocks have absolutely flown this year, but I wanted to share this with you guys because, like I said, 2022 was the year where a lot of things went wrong, and that's where I could go back to and point to you guys. Maybe some of you guys that have joined the stock market in 2023, 2024, you're thinking this is absolutely amazing, but yeah, it's great you're making money, but you're not learning anything from the mistakes, because you've had really no mistakes at the moment. Everything just keeps going up. So obviously you guys that have gone through this, this may be not too much of a shock for you or too much information for you guys, but I just want to recap about where things can go wrong in a business. Now, the stock I'm going to talk about today is Gang. So Gang is a stock I used to own, and it's a stock that didn't do very well for me. It's a stock that I sold out for a bit of a loss. I don't have too many losses on the YouTube channel, but unfortunately, yeah, 2022 was a year where I did have a couple of losses in the stock market, and it wasn't great. It punished me. It wasn't a great year for me. It's a year I lost money. The great thing with the stock market is you can learn from that, and then you can go on to rebound from them sort of situations. But going back to Gang, I bought Gang stock in about 2020. The stock was around about $15 at the time. Actually quite well. The stock was actually up nearly 100% at the time, and then it actually fell back down again. Thought, you know what, I'm going to buy a couple more shares. Stock actually rallied up again, another 80, 90% during this time frame. And I was actually up on this position a really good amount, and people actually praised me at the time in the comment section, saying, oh, what a pick Gang was. It's funny, isn't it, how things can turn like that, and all looks really good. And sometimes this can be lost. The amount of times that I always see in some stocks thrown at me, like Gang, for example, I always see Gang mentioned and like, oh, what a bad pick. But I always think, well, technically the stock was up 100% at one point, and I probably should have sold. So was it a bad stock pick, or did I just sell at the wrong time? That's also something that you've also got to factor in. I probably should have run the numbers at the time when the stock was $30 and gone, you know what, this is a bit of a rich valuation, I should take it and run. But hey, you know, you live and you learn. When back in 2021, you think valuations were just going to go on forever. And then stock came back down again. But really the big collapse kind of happened, as you can see here, during 2022 and 2023. And then unfortunately, I ended up selling the stock out for something like an 80% loss, I think it was in the end. Yeah, it wasn't great. But during the time, when I first started buying the stock, it looked all good for Gang. You know, you look at the numbers that were coming out. I pulled up here the Q2 earnings in 2021, and they hiked up the guidance. The revenue was a big beat, as you can see here. Big beat on the EBITDA. All looked like it was going in the right direction. Big increase on the guidance, and then it all started going wrong. And that's where it was a bit slow for me to realise how wrong it was going. So what I didn't really realise is that this is my first kind of big example of this, is where I had a company, Gang, you know, that was relying on certain customers. Them customers being FanDuel and DraftKings. Now FanDuel and DraftKings are both stocks that I own. I own FanDuel through Flutter, and obviously I still own DraftKings today. And what I didn't really realise is that when I was getting into Gang, who provided like the kind of like Shopify for iGaming, you know, providing the website game content through, you know, imagine a shop going through Shopify and setting up. It was like that Gang for some of these providers. And what I didn't first of all realise is that I thought the iGaming was going to be a really fragmented market. I thought like FanDuel would have like 8%, DraftKings would have 8%, BetMGM would have 8%, Caesar would have 8%. I thought it was going to be very much like the UK. I really didn't expect there to be a duopoly come out of this. Now, that hurt me big time, because what happened is all of the partnerships Gang had didn't really do that well, and I thought they would. The other thing that happened is Gang would then go on to lose their client FanDuel. Now, I thought at the time, I was like, it will be okay, because it's going to be a fragmented market. This loss of FanDuel will be made up with like the gains of Penn National. Now, what I didn't really realise at the time was that Penn National would basically completely fold in this space, and FanDuel would take big market share. And that was kind of the beginning from the end. And I was very slow to realise at the time that that was going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong, it actually worked out okay, because I would go on to make very good money from Flutter and FanDuel, because they would take up, you know, more market share than what I expected. Obviously, DraftKings, you know, benefited more than that, because they would come on to be the second largest player in the space, and I thought it'd be a lot more fragmented, and I made more money off DraftKings than what I lost in Gang, which is, you know, in terms of that, Gang actually is a good thing that they didn't do well, because, you know, DraftKings made me even more money. But to the point is that I was very slow to react to this. And it just shows you sometimes with some of these individual stocks, you've got to be really on top of everything. And when you do have a big customer that does pay big amounts of revenue to your business, you've got to be looking at what that customer's doing. And as soon as that customer shows signs of moving away, it can really hurt them. And that was what I was quite slow to, you know, really adapt from. And that's one of the big things that really hurt this stock. The next thing is the earnings. The earnings just continued to deteriorate, which was the, you know, annoying thing. Losses were creeping up, revenue was declining. But even after all that, I was staring at the company and I was thinking, they should still be making profitability. And if you look at the recent earnings that have just come out, they've actually made profitability. The recent earnings have come up and they beat EPS by a massive amount. Revenue grew back at an amazing amount. And you look at the recent earnings, you know, they've just gone from 29 million up to 37 million of revenue. You look at the cost of revenue, it's 9 million. So they're making major amounts of gross profit on this, like 28 million of gross profit. That's amazing gross profit margins. And over the last kind of few years I owned the stock, they weren't able to drag out profitability with them sort of numbers. And that's where it comes down to management. Management were very poor in Gang. And this is why I say that management can really make or break your investment. And that was the case with Gang. They had a very poor management team. And I should have been quicker at looking at that and going, the management team at Gang are not good enough. And sometimes it's a lot harder than people think of, like picking a stock, because when you're an investor, it's very hard because you don't know what's going on in that boardroom. And clearly whatever was going on in that boardroom wasn't good enough. You know, clearly the CEO of Gang Dermot Smurfit was doing a poor job. He wasn't cost controlling. Maybe he was paying himself too much of a salary. He wasn't doing a good enough job. I should have been looking at that going, they're not dragging enough to profitability. Now, Actually, the funny thing is that he's actually gone now. He has left the company in 2023. Now, funny enough, since there's been a big change in the management team, have you seen what's happened now? EPS is beating, revenue is beating and growing. You look at the profitability, they're cutting down, obviously great profit margins, they're cutting down the sales and marketing, they're cutting down the products and technology. G&A has gone slightly up, to be fair, but the operating costs are coming down massively. And what we have now here is a company that was previously losing 7 million is now making 2 million in profitability. And this is two things that went wrong with this stock, is that I was very slow to realise how big contracts were making up this business and the market share is shifting. And what I also didn't criticise enough was the management team. The management team not having these big gross margins and still not being able to turn a profit in the business. Unfortunately, it's too late now for the business. Even though right now, the company has actually looked the best it has done for years. It's looked the best that it has done since I bought in 2021. The company is massively growing on profitability. The EPS is massively beating. The revenue is growing at really good rates. The revenue is beating expectations by very good rates. The only shame now is that we once again got let down by a management team because what they did is they accepted an offer for the business. Gang is actually going to be acquired. It's going to be acquired by Sega. Now, the annoying thing is that Gang have actually decided to sell the stock for $1.97. Now, the problem is, I mean, obviously there's some people, the share price is kind of reflecting, quite a bit of the merger here right now. But the problem is now, is that this is an 83 million market cap company. If we have a look at the recent results here, the company just posted a 2 million profitability. I mean, if this company actually does consistently, let's just say 2 million of profitability every quarter from here, which is a bit lazy math, but let's say it's 8 million of profitability that this does a year. Realistically, the company has just been bought for, let's say, around about 10 times earnings, and also the amount of revenue that they do a year. What's the revenue that they've just come off? 135 million. This actually looks really cheap. But the problem is that the reason why that it was bought at these sort of levels is that because at the time, under bad management, the company had started to have declining revenue. The losses were ballooning at 172 million. But unfortunately, now we have actually got decent management in. They're actually running the company quite well again. And Sega probably acquired a pretty decent company here. And now getting the true potential out of it under the new management. But unfortunately, it's too late. Because what has happened is that, okay, the higher upside was maybe lost when Fangel walked away. But this company still could have done okay. This company could have easily still been a $9, $10 stock. It could have been a stock that maybe didn't work out for me, but I didn't have to take a 80% loss. I might have took a 10% loss, 20% loss, 30% loss, which, you could be a bit more accepting to that. But the reason why that didn't happen is that not only did a big contract was lost and it came a bit of a duopoly, which I didn't expect to happen, but unfortunately, management team, the management team was inadequate, and I should have been quicker questioning that. I should have been questioning big salary, the big salary increases that they were taking, the cost control, why costs were not being managed better than what it was. And when I saw the lack of management control over those costs, I should have walked away from the business. And I thought, what, it's a good reflection point today. Mistakes that I learned when investing in this business, and maybe for a few people that also used to own the stock, like what went wrong with it. Because sometimes people just assume that, stock market picking is just scrolling down the screen and going, you know what, I like that one. But there's a lot more that goes into the background. And sometimes there's just things that are out of your control. There's sometimes things that you don't really realise until it's too late. And that's the case with Gang. And, you learn, you got to learn from it. And those are the things that I learned from Gang anyway. So, hopefully there's some useful information out there because, like I said, not many YouTubers talk about the losses. They certainly won't talk about stocks that they took big losses on and then cover them again in a year's time. But I feel like these are the best learning videos that you can do out here. It's all right showing the stocks that you win on, but I think it's really important as well that you show the stocks that you didn't win on. And that's certainly some things that went wrong with this investment. So hope you enjoyed the video anyway. I'll see you on Monday, and I should be talking about a new stock I'm buying. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. See you in a bit.